Okay, diving into some pretty heavy stuff today. Co-parenting with a controlling ex.
Right?
It's, a situation that can feel like you're constantly walking on eggshells.
Oh, yeah.
Never knowing what's going to set them off.
Absolutely.
So we're going to break down this All Rise Solutions article,
Yeah.
how to handle a controlling co-parent,
Yeah.
and give you some practical tools to help you navigate this tricky terrain.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a very complex dynamic that can leave you feeling very drained and powerless.
So think of this deep dive as building your toolkit,
Right.
one strategy at a time.
Exactly.
The goal is to change your ex's behavior.
No.
That's a whole other can of worms. But to empower you to create a more peaceful and stable environment for your child.
Yeah. I like to think of it as, empowering you, giving you all of the tools that you need so that you can manage this.
Exactly.
It's less about them and more about you.
Okay, so first things first. The article talks about recognizing the controlling behavior. It sounds obvious.
Yeah.
But when you're in the thick of it, it's easy to miss those patterns.
It really is. It's like being stuck in a maze and you can't see the forest for the trees.
Right.
You just can't get perspective.
So the article gives some really clear examples.
It does.
Things like demanding constant updates,
Yes.
interfering with your decision-making, or trying to dictate how you raise your child in your own home.
Exactly. Like they're trying to control both sides of the...
It's like they're trying to micromanage both households.
Yes.
Which just isn't realistic or healthy.
No, it's not healthy for anyone.
For anyone involved.
Not for the kids and not for the parents.
So the article suggests keeping a journal to document these patterns and triggers.
Right.
Have you found that helpful for your clients?
I have. I've definitely found it helpful because, it not only brings clarity for the client themselves, but it also can provide concrete evidence if legal intervention becomes necessary.
Right.
So, sometimes I also encourage my clients to track positive interactions too.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So it's not just about focusing on the negative.
Exactly, because it's so easy to just get caught in that negativity spiral.
Yeah.
And sometimes just seeing on paper like, oh, there were a couple of times where things actually worked out okay. Even if they're small, it can be surprisingly empowering.
It's like finding those little glimmers of hope amidst the chaos.
Right.
Okay, so you've recognized the controlling behavior.
Okay.
Now, the article talks about setting boundaries.
All right.
And I love the analogy they use.
Okay.
Boundaries are like fences, protecting your sanity, your child's stability.
I love that analogy.
It's so powerful.
Visual, right?
Yeah.
It's a good one.
So you're creating a clear line between what's acceptable and what's not.
Yeah. The article suggests treating co-parenting like a business relationship.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So sticking to child-related matters.
Yeah.
Keeping the communication neutral.
Neutral tone.
Avoiding those personal digs.
Yeah.
That just escalate the conflict.
Exactly.
Right.
Like, think about it this way. You wouldn't get into an argument with a colleague about their personal life during a work meeting, right?
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
But how do you actually enforce those boundaries with someone who's used to steamrolling over them?
Well, that's a great question. I think consistency is key.
Okay.
And, this is where those co-parenting apps can be incredibly helpful.
Right, because everything is documented. It's like having a neutral third party observing the interaction.
Exactly. And it removes that ambiguity and provides a clear record of the communication. So, if you ever needed to demonstrate a pattern of behavior to a mediator or in court, you would have it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, the next big hurdle, and this is one I imagine a lot of people struggle with, is communication. How do you effectively communicate with someone who's constantly trying to control the narrative?
Such a good question.
Yeah.
The article emphasizes keeping communication neutral, factual, and focused on the child's needs.
So less, you always do this.
Right.
And more, I feel like it would benefit our child if...
Exactly. You're just trying to de-escalate the situation and really keep the focus on what matters.
Right.
And again, those co-parenting apps can be your best friend here.
Because it eliminates those he said, she said arguments.
Exactly. It creates a transparent record of what was said and agreed upon, and it leaves less room for those misinterpretations or manipulation.
Okay, we've talked about recognizing the behavior.
Right.
Setting boundaries.
Yes.
And mastering communication.
Oh, okay.
But what happens when, despite your best efforts, things just aren't working, when the conflict just keeps escalating?
Right. That's where the article introduced a really interesting concept called strategic disengagement.
So it's not about giving in.
It's not about giving in.
But rather choosing your battles wisely.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's recognizing that sometimes the most powerful move you can make is to step back from the conflict.
I imagine that could be really hard, especially when you feel like you're constantly being pushed into a corner.
Yeah, you're right. It is definitely a skill. It takes practice.
Right.
But it's about protecting your energy and emotional well-being, and sometimes disengaging is the best way to do that.
It's about choosing peace over chaos.
Yes.
Even when it feels counterintuitive.
I love that.
Right.
Yeah, peace over chaos.
Okay.
And the article offers a specific technique for disengagement called the gray rock method.
Have you ever heard of that?
Have you heard of that?
I have, but I'd love to hear you explain it.
Okay.
Because I think it's a concept that a lot of people could benefit from understanding.
Yeah, it's basically about becoming emotionally unresponsive to the controlling behavior. So think of yourself as a gray rock, dull, uninteresting, and completely unfazed by the storm raging around you.
So you're not giving them the emotional reaction that they're looking for.
Exactly.
Right.
You're giving very brief, factual responses. You're avoiding getting drawn into arguments. And you're essentially starving the drama.
That's such a powerful visual.
Right.
Starving the drama. I love it.
Okay.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
Recognizing the controlling behavior.
Yeah.
Setting boundaries. Mastering communication.
Yes.
And even knowing when to strategically disengage.
Right.
But what happens when, even with all of these tools, the situation feels unmanageable?
Right. Well, that's where professional help comes in.
Right, because sometimes you need an outside perspective and a neutral third party to help navigate the complexities of co-parenting with a controlling ex.
Exactly. It's not a sign of weakness to seek professional help.
Right.
It's actually a sign of strength. It's a sign that you're committed to doing what's best for your child.
So we're going to pick up with that when we come back in part 2.
Okay.
We'll dive into the specifics of professional help, explore those frequently asked questions from the article, and give you even more practical strategies to help you thrive on this co-parenting journey. Welcome back. I'm really glad we're tackling this topic because, let's face it, co-parenting with a controlling ex can feel incredibly isolating. Like you're stuck in this battle that no one else understands.
It's a unique kind of stress.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember that you don't have to go through this alone.
Right.
There is support out there, and knowing when to reach out for professional help can be key.
That's where we left off right before. The article really emphasizes seeking professional help when things reach a boiling point.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's not about admitting defeat. It's about being proactive.
Yeah.
Seeking guidance from someone who can provide an objective perspective and help you navigate those murky waters.
So who are these professionals and how can they help?
Well, there are mediators
Okay.
who can facilitate communication and help you create agreements.
Okay.
There are co-parenting counselors who can provide specific strategies for managing conflict and improving those interactions.
Okay.
And then, of course, there are therapists who can help you process the emotional toll that this is taking on you.
Because let's be real, dealing with a controlling ex can be emotionally exhausting.
It's exhausting.
It's like you're constantly on guard, waiting for the next power struggle to erupt.
Yeah. And that's where therapy can be incredibly valuable. It's a safe space to process those feelings, develop coping mechanisms, and build resilience.
Okay, so the article does a great job of outlining those core strategies.
Yeah.
Recognizing the behavior, setting boundaries, communication, disengagement, and seeking professional help. But then they have this section of frequently asked questions.
Right.
Which I thought was super helpful.
Yes.
Because they really get to the heart of those common challenges.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Those FAQs are like a gold mine of practical advice.
Yeah.
Let's dive into those, shall we?
The first one is all about boundaries.
Okay.
How do I set boundaries with a controlling co-parent when they constantly push the limits? Which I imagine is a question that a lot of listeners are grappling with.
Absolutely. It's like trying to build a fence when someone keeps knocking it down.
Yeah.
But the article stresses the importance of clear communication and consistency.
So it's not enough to just say, this is the boundary.
Right.
You have to be prepared to enforce it.
Every single time.
Every single time.
Yes. And, remember, those co-parenting apps can be really helpful here.
Right.
Because they create that documented record of your communication and boundary setting. So there's less room for misinterpretation or manipulation.
It's like having a referee on hand, ensuring that everyone is playing by the rules.
Ah, love that analogy.
Okay, next question.
Okay.
This one's about communication. What's the best way to communicate with a controlling co-parent when it feels like talking to a brick wall?
Oh, I hear that one a lot.
Right.
It can be so frustrating.
Yeah.
But the article emphasizes, sticking to neutral factual communication.
So avoid those emotional outbursts.
Yes.
No matter how tempting it might be to just let loose.
Exactly. Keep your messages brief, professional, and focus solely on the child's needs.
Okay.
Treat it like a business transaction. You're there to co-parent.
Right.
Not rehash old arguments or engage in personal attacks.
Okay, I'm taking notes.
Okay.
Business transaction. Got it. The next question is about disengagement.
Okay.
When should I disengage instead of engaging in conflict? Which seems like a really important skill to master in this type of co-parenting situation.
It is. It's all about choosing your battles wisely.
Right.
The article talks about, if a conversation becomes toxic and unproductive or emotionally charged, step back.
Okay.
Ask yourself, is this battle worth fighting? Or will disengaging actually be more beneficial for me in the long run?
So it's about recognizing those moments when walking away is actually the more powerful move.
Exactly. And remember that gray rock method that we talked about earlier?
Yes.
This is the perfect scenario to put it into practice.
Right.
Become emotionally unresponsive, give brief, factual answers, and don't feed the drama monster.
Starve the drama monster.
Starve it.
I love that. Okay, now this next question is really intriguing.
Okay.
How can a parenting plan help with a controlling co-parent?
Right.
I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this one because it seems like a controlling co-parent might resist having a structured plan.
Well, that's where the power of a well-structured parenting plan comes in.
Okay.
It removes ambiguity.
Okay.
And it minimizes the opportunities for manipulation. It's like having a clear roadmap that both parents have agreed to follow.
Right.
So there's less room for those last-minute changes or power plays.
So it's less about having to negotiate every little detail on the fly, which can be exhausting.
It is.
And just lead to more conflict.
Exactly. A detailed parenting plan outlines everything.
Okay.
Custody schedules, holidays, decision-making authority, even communication protocol.
Wow.
It creates a framework that can bring some much-needed stability and predictability to the co-parenting relationship.
It's like having a neutral third party saying, okay, this is what we agreed on. Let's stick to the plan.
Right. And if your co-parent tries to deviate from the plan, you can calmly and firmly refer back to the agreement.
Okay.
It takes away their power to unilaterally make decisions or try to control the situation.
Okay, last question from the FAQs.
Okay.
And it's a big one. When is professional help necessary in co-parenting disputes?
Well, the article highlights that, professional help can be invaluable when ongoing conflicts are disrupting the co-parenting process.
Okay.
Or negatively impacting the child's well-being.
So if you're constantly battling over every little detail, or if your child is showing signs of stress or anxiety related to the co-parenting situation,
exactly,
it might be time to seek professional intervention.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that sometimes you need that extra support.
Right.
To navigate the complexities of co-parenting with a controlling ex.
Yeah.
And remember, it's not a sign of weakness to seek help. It's a sign of strength.
Right.
It's a sign that you're putting your child's needs first.
And that's what it's all about, right?
That's what it's all about.
Creating a stable and loving environment for your child to thrive in, even if it means reaching out for help along the way.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground in this part of the deep dive, but I feel like we're just getting warmed up.
You're right. There's still so much to unpack, and I'm excited to dive into those final thoughts and resources in part 3.
Me too. So stay tuned. We're coming right back after a quick message. Okay, we're back. Ready to wrap up our deep dive into co-parenting with a controlling ex.
I think we covered so much good stuff in the first 2 parts.
It's been a roller coaster, hasn't it?
It has been a lot, but hopefully listeners are feeling much more equipped.
Yeah.
And a little less alone.
Definitely feeling more hopeful.
No,
We've
right.
talked about, recognizing those controlling behaviors, setting those boundaries, mastering communication, knowing when to disengage, even the importance of seeking professional help.
Right. And, this article doesn't just give us strategies.
Right.
They also offer some really empowering words of encouragement, too.
I love that part.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to feel like a victim in these situations.
It is.
But it's like they're reminding us that we're not.
Exactly. We have the power to make choices that protect our well-being.
Mm-hmm.
And, most importantly, our child's well-being.
Right. And I love that line that they have in the article.
Which one?
it is possible to establish boundaries and maintain a stable, child-focused co-parenting relationship. It's like, yes, it can be done.
You can.
It might not be easy.
Right.
But it's possible.
That's such a powerful message, right?
It really is.
To remember that.
Yeah.
You're not stuck.
Yeah, and I think they make a really good point about focusing on your child's needs rather than engaging in those endless power struggles.
Right, like disengaging from that need to win every battle.
It's like you said, shifting the focus from winning the battle to winning the war.
Yes, it is.
The war against chaos and dysfunction.
Yes, I love that. And they end with this, beautiful statement.
What is it?
The goal is to create a stable, nurturing environment where the child feels secure and loved.
That's it. That's the ultimate goal.
Right.
And it's so easy to forget that.
It is when you get caught up in day-to-day.
In the day-to-day battles.
Yes.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Okay.
Remember that, small, consistent steps can lead to really big changes over time.
They do. They really do.
Don't try to do everything at once.
Right.
Pick one strategy that resonated with you today and start there.
Maybe it's practicing the gray rock method.
Yeah.
Maybe it's creating a more detailed parenting plan.
Yeah. Or maybe it's just reaching out to a therapist or a mediator for support.
Right.
Whatever it is, take that first step.
Yes.
You've got this.
You do.
And remember, you are not alone. There are so many resources available.
So many.
To help you every step of the way.
That's right.
And we've included links to all Rise solutions and other helpful resources in the show notes.
Wonderful.
So keep learning, keep growing, and keep advocating for yourself and your child.
Because you deserve peace.
Yes.
And your child deserves a happy and stable childhood.
Absolutely. And with the right tools and support.
You can create that.
You can create that.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, this is a good one.
Until next time, keep diving deep.